Welcome to my channel. Welcome back, or if you are here for the first time, hi, how y'all doing? Nice to see everybody. Just so you guys know, my chair is still tilting this way. I think it has to be the floors. I mean, I would love to think that there are invisible aliens or UFOs out there and they're like, you are our people and we're just gonna mess with you because I'm that important. No, the floors are uneven. You know, I might be a little bit, I like to entertain the really fun stuff and I would like to think it's surreal, but I also have a little bit of a critical mind. If you didn't see it, please yesterday go check out, I posted, I think it'll be yesterday depending on when this gets monetized. I have the most fun video that I posted about apparently one of the Israeli defense ministers of space or whatever, I can't remember his title, but he was high up in the government in dealing with space. He said that there are extraterrestrials on the planet that Donald Trump is working with and that Donald Trump is going to be exposing, or what they call disclosure of ETs, and that the ETs have said not yet because people aren't ready. We don't want to create panic. And I love it. I'm not saying it's real. I'm not saying it's not real. It's fun for me to entertain because I really don't like the way a lot of people act on this planet, and I would love some fun alien friends as long as they're nice. That's always my thing. Just be nice. So welcome to my channel. I will tell you guys right now, this is going to be a little bit probably of a longer video, and I'm really cringing at the video. And I first want to say, I took a few hours to think about, do I want to do this video? Because I feel like this is kind of going into the drama side of things, but at this point, what I've heard from the definition of dramas, it can kind of be almost anything, right? Even I was like, so is news drama? And I don't really want to be a drama channel per se. But I found this really interesting, and I just like to talk about things that are interesting to me on this channel. This is kind of my talk about whatever channel. Now, if you guys want like politics, stimulus, financial news, like stimulus help, I do have a channel for that. You can see me there every day. I'm more consistent. I upload like 2 or 3 times a day. It's called Katie's Insight. So make sure and go subscribe and hit notifications, and make sure you hit the notification button there because I give you guys up-to-date information, not just on stimulus, but where you can find stimulus in your area and across the country. And for some of these programs that are popping up, many times it's the early bird gets the worm. So it's the first people that apply, get it before the money runs out. So go over there, check out the vids. Let me know what you think. I would love to have you guys over there. Or if you like this kind of content, subscribe to this channel and hit notifications. Like the videos, comment, share. It all helps. This one's just kind of more fun, and I just kind of talk about whatever I want to. But I saw this, and I really took some time to think about it because I'm like, wow, this is kind of drama. Do I really want to do this? Do I really want to get into this? And I think the answer is, after thinking about it and looking into it, I was like, you know what? I think I have some perspectives I would like to share. Maybe they're interesting to y'all. I think they might be kind of interesting. So, you know, we'll see. But yeah, I wanted to share some stuff. First and foremost, I am not going to be attacking anybody in this video. I have the utmost respect for everybody I'm going to talk about, number one. So if you're coming here for that, probably go, because you're not going to hear that. Everything I'm going to say, I'm going to try to do my best to say within love and kindness and respect. This is not a coming for type of thing. And I know I in the past have been that person. That's not who I want to be, unless there's a really big reason for it. And in this case, that's not nearly the case. I feel like I've gone back and forth between that being that person and wanting to be kind and respectful and compassionate, which I think has confused people in the past, right? So now that I'm feeling better and I've really much transformed in being sick and learning a lot about myself, I just want to do better if I can, in the best way you can, as you can. So just so you know, this might be a one and done video with this kind of content because I think this would clearly fall into the drama category. But I think I have an interesting take because what I want to do is I want to break down YouTubers and mental illness from somebody who's been through it, gone through the YouTube ringer. And I've not been where Trisha is or Ethan Klein is, but I've been a popular YouTuber on the rise. And I feel I don't know. And not to be rude at all to Trisha or disrespectful, I just feel like I can understand a lot of her. And in fact, my younger self had a lot of parts of what she's dealing with. So what am I talking about? So Trisha Paytas has this podcast with Ethan Klein called Frenemies. Very, very popular. I will be very honest with you guys. I think I've watched portions of like 2 episodes. Ew, excuse me, body. So I don't really watch Trisha. I don't really know much about I don't know much about her now. When I was on YouTube before on this channel, you know, I was very supportive and had several, you know, videos of support. And she actually at one point followed me on Twitter. We'd had some, you know, I think brief conversations in DMs. We're super brief, right? Not like we were, you know, into a super conversation, but she had, you know, talked about me a few times in her videos and she had been supportive. There was a couple times she wasn't, and that's okay. I don't really, you know, it doesn't really bother me at this point. But, you know, for the most part, it's been fairly cordial. I don't agree with everything she says and does, obviously, and who does? Not everybody agrees with everything I do, right? But she had a fight on there, and I just happened to see this tonight, and she had a video explaining her side of it. So I went and I saw the clip of the fight that happened, and then I watched her video. Let me start by saying I'm not a watcher of the show, a viewer of the show. I was gonna say I don't really know much about the show, and it seems like it's a show where people are trying to provoke each other. And that's fine if that's the case, right? Y'all do you, whatever you want to do. And if it works and it's entertaining, fantastic. But it seems like every so often there are dust-ups where Trisha gets really upset and kind of storms out. There was one, I feel like I've seen this like twice. There was another one where I saw where she left. I feel like they were in Halloween costumes. I don't remember what it was about. Like, my memory's a lot better. As I'm clearing up the fibromyalgia, I'm clearing up so much of the brain fog, but I still have bad days and there's still like a lot of chunks of information during the times of being sick that are missing. So I don't, you know, I don't really remember exactly what had happened, but they had a fight and Trisha talked about it. Now, I don't know much about the show. I don't know much about their dynamic. I don't know much about Ethan and his wife and their dynamic with her. I do know, I believe the situation is, and correct me if I'm wrong, she is dating his brother or a family member. So that's just to kind of give you a little introduction. I have a few clips of what she was talking about, and I feel like this is kind of paramount to what a lot of YouTubers like her, especially women on the platform, have been going through. So, also, I'm not here to make her a hero or make her a villain either, right? Or paint her in this poor me light. I just want to break down some things as being somebody who was somewhat of a popular YouTuber at one time, not super successful. I was building, and I probably could have gotten there had things gone differently. But I'd like to give some perspectives, and also some perspectives from somebody who, when I hear what she says, I'm like, I can relate, girl. I've been there. So I'd like to just give some, you know, like I said, respectful points of view on it. So I want to go ahead and I want to pull up. There are a few clips. And I want to break them down. I'll break them down kind of in short segments of some things I would like to say and then kind of my overall thought process. Trisha does a lot of talking about all kinds of things. Trisha's a very controversial person in many ways. My heart really goes out to her when she's like, people Google me and they see horrible things and they're going to hate me. I'm like, I'm in the same boat. And in my case, most of them are lies. In some ways, Trisha brings some of this on herself, which she admits, because she will do things to troll or she will do things just to be controversial. So she will do outrageous things she knows will trigger people just to get attention, just to get a response. But it's interesting because she also opens up a lot. She is super, super open. In fact, too open, which we'll talk about because I know all about this. She is way too open when it comes to her YouTube videos on her channel, and she's just known for just kind of spewing everything out there. And she has a lot of mental battles that she goes through that I again, really resonate and hit home with me. So let's go ahead, let's take a look at some of these clips, and I kind of want to break down some things that I see with this. So, okay, this is the first of her video, and it's not the whole video because the video is like 45 minutes long, but it is a few clips of some things I thought were interesting or kind of important. So let's take a look.
The day after they posted, H3, Ethan, posted the podcast yesterday. Now he did text me and asked me if he could post that. And he told me Saturday, which is fine, doesn't really matter what day, but I said yes. I'm very, very open. As Dr. Drew says, I overshare too much, and that's like, I think it's a problem, but I think it's why I've, like, it's like my job, you know what I mean? It's like, Anna Nicole had a great little quote on her, the late great Anna Nicole, on her amazing iconic reality show, where a woman comes up to her while she's eating and says, hey, I think they're like exploiting you. And Anna's like, well, that's okay, as long as they're paying me. And while that may sound like soul-sucking, like a soul-sucking answer, like, I relate to that a lot, because I have a really good life. I get to do really fun things like make my music and stuff because of the job that I have. Now, a lot of people argue maybe it's not great for my mental health, and I agree to a certain degree, to a certain extent. Because yeah, I didn't have control over my mental health until like it was not too late, but until I hit rock bottom last year. Now, a lot of people think the episode yesterday was rock bottom, and I don't know if it was rock bottom. It was awful.
Okay, I want to break down this first clip. I have a little bit of notes because y'all know my memory can be a little bit funny. So let me go ahead and say what, kind of break just some short things because I just wanted to, have some framework for her. She says, so they had this fight. Ethan had messaged her and said, can I post this? And she agreed and said he could. Now, what I find interesting there is that she talked about how embarrassing the show was and how embarrassing that moment was for her. And she didn't want that out there for everybody. But at the same time, she agrees to have it posted. And again, it's not I'm coming for you. I'm going to break down some of what I think that she might struggle from. And, some things if you struggle for things like this, maybe tools that can help. Because I've been through some similar things or similar thought processes. And she says she is open and she shares too much. She overshares. Doctors have told her that she does that. And she says she knows it's a problem, but she also thinks it's okay because it's her job. Here's the thing, though. If your job is going to do something that's directly going to make your health or mental health in a negative state where you are not going to be able to function without chaos, that's not a fulfilling, peaceful life. And that's just something that I think that's kind of obvious, but her job is really at odds with her being able to make peace and find peace in herself with these issues. And my heart goes out to her. When I was on YouTube and I was going through the physical issues, which created a lot of mental issues aside from the family issues and all the stuff that you guys know because I overshared. The situation is, YouTube is as great as it is and how much fun it can be. It kind of can trap you where you are at mentally or emotionally. In my case, physically, even though my physical situation, it wasn't that YouTube trapped me. It just took forever to figure out. Mystery illness can take anywhere on average from 4 to 7 years to get diagnosed correctly because so many people miss things or they don't take you seriously, especially if you're a woman. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then she says, she references Anna Nicole, and I'll tell you, I cringed because I think a lot of us in the 2000s, growing up in the 2000s, like Anna Nicole was one of the first reality TV shows. I think it was like Survivor. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire wasn't really a reality TV show. No, it was like a game show, right? It was big back then. It was the first like $1 million prize thing. And back then that was a huge deal because back then $1 million meant more obviously than it does now. I mean, it's still nothing to bulk out, but So that was one of the first reality television shows. And she was talking about how iconic she is and how much she likes Anna Nicole. And I immediately cringed. And it's no disrespect to Anna Nicole, physically a beautiful woman, and I think probably a lot smarter. I think a lot of these women, like Jessica Simpson, Anna Nicole, these women that kind of get put into this ditzy category, they're a lot more intelligent than what people give them credit for. It's just when you're a beautiful woman and, people perceive you with a certain type of appeal, right? I have to say my words carefully because it's YouTube. They think it is okay to degrade you or downgrade you or think less of you. It's a very strange thing that we do when we think we see somebody beautiful or we see something, or like when men see something from women where they see something beautiful and that triggers them to want something from them they don't feel like they can get. It's like then we think we should downgrade them and we don't give them that much respect. And as a result, I think sometimes they kind of fall into these ditzy type of characters because they're just trying to navigate in the world with how people are treating them. And it's weird. I've been, and you guys know me, I've been huge and I've also been super small and super cute. Not that you have to be small to be cute, right? But I've been on both ends of that spectrum and I've gotten crap for both. A lot of people don't realize when you're super small, or to people you look super attractive. I'm not saying I was super attractive, but if you look more on the attractive side, especially if you're small, a lot of women are not really nice to you, and which is interesting. That's a whole nother conversation I could talk about, because I don't, at the end of the day, I actually feel sad for women, because we are kind of pitted against each other to, be competitive with one another in how we look. And we are so medically disadvantaged is what I would call it, that so many of us have weight issues for no fault of our own. And some people overeat, obviously they do things like that. A lot of women will get mad at you just for being thinner simply because they can't do it. For some, it's, you know, impulse control. But for some, it's no matter what they do, their body just isn't working correctly to be able to be the weight that they want. These are, again, subjects for whole other videos. But my point is to say I kind of locked up when I heard her say Anna Nicole, because I remember when I was younger, I really studied a lot of these characters. I studied Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Anna Nicole. There was something that it's weird, I wasn't like a super fan necessarily, but there was something that kind of drew me to these people, to kind of study their lives and study them. And back then, celebrity culture was such a bigger deal than it is now, because now that we have platforms like YouTube and social media, it kind of gives us that direct link. So it's not as big and prevalent as it was back then, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just how I look at it. But I remember the year or so before she passed, or before people made her pass, please infer, I remember seeing her and she had lost all that weight and she was acting like she was on drugs. I'm not saying she was, I'm not saying she wasn't. There are different reports. And I just had this horrible feeling, this horrible sinking feeling that people are drugging her and something bad's going to happen. And sure enough, you know, like a few months later, she passes, and then her son passes. Right? I mean, everything was very mysterious, and something in my soul has never set right with what's happened to her. I'm really glad that, you know, the daughter that she has is with that Burkhead guy. Is his name Danny? I can't remember his name. And he seems like he's really trying to do the right thing by her, and he's trying to raise her. That's fantastic. But Anna Nicole, I'm not saying she's not iconic, but it seems like Trisha Paytas sometimes looks up to these people who have done things to themselves to put themselves in precarious situations to get attention, kind of like to project themselves as this blonde, bombshell, overly blank appeal, please infer. I hate that I have to censor myself so much on YouTube. Oh my gosh. And Trisha, you know, she'll get really glammed up, and she loves that kind of look, it seems like, and tries to embody that, and that kind of energy. And, you know, and look, that's a beautiful energy. The problem with that is I hear so many girls, and they love Marilyn Monroe, and they want to emulate her. And then when I hear Anna Nicole, it's just like, those are people, though, that went so far with that persona, that they put themselves in horrific situations that probably met their demise. And so as soon as she says that, just so you know, alarm bells go off, and I'm like, oh girl. And no disrespect, she can like who she likes. I'm not saying that she can't, but it immediately had concern for me, because I'm like, oh, don't try to emulate any of these people too much, because look what's happened to them. Do you know what I'm saying? And with how many mental health issues that she's had, it concerns me for her. And by the way, when I say mental health, I see mental health very differently than a lot of people. People are always saying mental illness. And I think, you know, I just don't think we understand it in the right way. I think sometimes there's negative patterns that we can have, negative patterns that can turn into habits. And sometimes those settle in, and that can happen from the way we grew up, from toxicity, from trauma. Like, in my opinion, there are several reasons like why that can happen. And so I don't necessarily think it's just like, oh, you are mentally diseased. It's like, well, no, there are things to uncover. And now some people do have chemical issues. I don't know her mental health. I'm not her doctor. I'm not trying to say what is or what isn't, just throwing out some perspective. So anyways, about Anna Nicole, I just kind of cringed and went, oh girl, please don't, because she had a bad ending. So like, yeah, it's just, my heart breaks for Anna if you really look into what all the events surrounding her passing and her son's passing a few days later. It's hard to even talk about now. But anyway, she says, Anna, there was something about where somebody went up to Anna when I guess she was filming at a restaurant. She's like, you know, people are exploiting you, right? She's like, well, as long as they're paying me, that's okay. And she's like, I really relate to that. And she seemed to kind of correlate that a bit in a positive. She's like, even though it's a soul-sucking answer, she relates to it because she has this fun life and she can do what she wants because of that. To me, that's very telling with what she has said. She knows that this is unhealthy. She's admitted that, right? It's, you know, she's not hiding that at all. She knows this type of lifestyle isn't really healthy for her, but at the same time, she says, right, but putting myself in a situation where people can take advantage of me or hurt me or be bad to me gives me other things I want. So it feels like in that respect, she's kind of trying to excuse the fact that, well, my career degrades me as a person, and that's not mentally healthy for me, and that's not healthy in my life and creates issues. But in having people degrade me, it gives me other different things that I want. And it makes me sad because I'm like, girl, I think you are talented enough and strong enough, and I believe courageous enough that you could have all those fun things and have the things that you want and not have to put yourself in those situations. That's it. It just, that's, and my heart goes out to her with that, because I'm like, it doesn't have to be like that. But at the same time, a lot of times she puts herself into that situation, right? I'm not saying she doesn't, but, and that happens with a lot of people on social media, especially a lot of women. That happens, you know, that can really happen. And again, I put myself out there at the worst time in my life, so I can understand that oversharing and all of that. That's another thing about the oversharing I kind of want to get into that she said. Here's something that I've learned. I'm going to have a video coming about this soon, but I feel like in my life, I've overshared many times because it is a defense mechanism of trying to constantly justify. And I think she talks about that in this video, so she's self-aware of some of this. Well, she talks a little bit about, you know, I think, if I remember right, I've watched several things today because my job is YouTube, but, you know, it's kind of about having to justify your experiences and your existence. And I'm kind of at the point in my life, I've gotten old enough, I've worked through enough things and healthier, where I'm just like, I don't have to justify anything to anybody. I really don't. And I don't care to, you know, like people can think whatever they want of me to an extent. So I feel like a lot of times oversharing is a defense mechanism of people aren't going to like me, people aren't going to love me, people aren't going to believe me. And that can, you know, that can happen from several different things. And that can happen from the way you grow up. That can happen from how people have treated you in the past, bad relationships. So I thought that was telling. And she says she knows this situation is not good for her mental health. And she says she doesn't have control of it until yesterday. And people think yesterday was her rock bottom. She says, I guess a year ago, she ended up going to the hospital for mental health issues. Which I don't know. Again, my heart goes out to her. But there's a couple other clips I do want to play, and I'm going to give some more information. So let's take a look.
And like it's really bad. It's really like I really can't control it. Once I like there's an not to use the word lightly, but there really is a trigger or a switch in my mind that once it's switched, it's like it's literally like a different person. I'm not trying to say I have multiple personalities or something like that. I'm just saying like it's literally like a different person where like I no longer can control it. And the whole episode yesterday, I really was trying to control myself because I don't like pushing myself for the sake of drama for the show. I don't mind a debate. I don't mind. Obviously, I love Ethan and find Ethan funny. I like our dynamic. You know, it's very similar to when I was friends with David Dobrik. Like I like the poking. I think it's fun. I think it's entertaining. Obviously, people find it entertaining, and like I like it. I find it somewhat stimulating to have a opponent, if you will. But I do think Ethan pushes me to get this reaction of me walking out. Me walking out is something I don't like. Well, technically yesterday he said you should leave.
Okay, at this one she's saying she has this switch where if people trigger her enough, she gets into this mindset where it's like, I can't control what's going on. I can't, you know, and she kind of flips. And she says, you know, I'm not trying to say that I'm this diagnosis or that, but this is what happens. But then she also talks about in this that with this show, the show is all about kind of triggering one another and poking at one another. And she also admits that she feels Ethan goes too far and tries to get those reactions out of her. But then she also talks about what a nice guy he is. So again, we have the same theme and the same kind of paradigm that I'm seeing, that on some level it's okay to overstep my boundaries, to disrespect my boundaries, to degrade me as a human being. But as long as I'm getting something out of it, that's okay. The problem though is at some point when you're setting boundaries and people overstep them, you're going to have a reaction because you're defending yourself or you're in defense mode, right? That's normal. But she says she gets to a point where she just kind of just goes off in a flip switch. Well, right, but if you are constantly putting yourself in a toxic environment where people are treating you in that level in a toxic way, you're not really going to be able to have healthy emotions and healthy interactions. And she talks about the show in this, and she says, well, you know, the show is all about us triggering one another, and I think that's kind of fun, but he takes it too far, and I was saying I wanted to stop, and he was overstepping my boundaries. And she says, and he does this, he tries to get reactions from me. That's not a healthy scenario. That's not somebody, in my opinion, that really has your best interests at heart. And no disrespect to Ethan. I'm not saying that Ethan in any way is trying to manipulate her, trying to be mean. Maybe he doesn't realize what this is doing, but this is the dynamic I'm seeing, and I'm seeing her, then she reacts, and then after she reacts, she just has this horrible guilt and this war that goes on in herself. And I've been there. I've been there with toxic people in my life. I've really, really been there, guys. I've been through that where you're around toxic people, you can't get around it, you try to be as self-controlled as you can be. They're trying to manipulate you, they're downgrading you, they're doing all these things, they're using you, and you feel like because you have no self-worth, well, I can't really set boundaries, and because I can't set boundaries, in her situation, she says, might as well let people do that to me as long as they give me something, because I'm not worth it to set boundaries and actually execute them. At least, like, that's how I see this. I'm not saying she thinks that. I'm saying that's how I kind of see some of these patterns that she's talking about and the way she's behaving. The problem is she gets to a point where she allows people to do that to her. She doesn't take the space she needs when she knows she's getting triggered to a point because she needs to take space to deal with herself and be able to work on more self-control. She doesn't do that. Not all the time. She says she's really proud of the fact that she's come far with that, and then she just reacts and she feels horrible. But at the same time, she's allowing herself to be paid to be put in those situations. So once again, she is looking at a situation where the job that she is choosing to do and the persona, the narrative she's choosing to put herself out as, and in some ways, I think people have also at times unfairly put on her, this dumb blonde bombshell, not saying that's who she is, I'm saying that the narrative that society can put on you, in some ways she may just feel like, I don't really have a choice. If this is what people are going to do, might as well take it and make the best of it. And I understand that, but I think if she really wants to get mentally healthy, she has to really set strong boundaries and step away from that, and maybe even take some time away from a job that's toxic. How many people quit jobs or leave jobs for extended times or period because they're just too toxic for your life, and they are, jobs where you're going to not be able to have peace, to where she's putting herself in the hospital. Like that's a big thing, right? So that's some stuff that I'm seeing with this. And then she says she doesn't want to push herself just for the drama of the show, but she admits that she thinks Ethan puts her in that position. And that's where I think honest, good conversation has to happen between the two of them, because maybe he's just not really either aware fully that he's doing it, or more than that, because he's probably aware to an extent, maybe he's not aware of how it's affecting her. Right? And I think, boundaries have to be established and have to be respected in some regards. And I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that Trisha is somebody that's good with boundaries either. She talks about oversharing, and we know she has put so much information out about people that have trusted her with info and really done damage to them. So I'm not saying she's blameless in that area. I'm just looking at this going, girl, if you really want to get mentally healthy and stop these patterns, you've got to really set boundaries and know in yourself you are worth it to enforce them. Otherwise, the patterns continue, and then the negativity and the wars inside yourself and the guilt and all that stuff that comes up that ends up making you over time feel crazy and then bubbles up and issues happen. Either, it can come out as destructive, or she's putting herself in the hospital. And what's hard is every which way it goes, she ends up being looked at as the horrible person. Oh, she's just, the crazy female archetype. When I think she's just kind of screaming out for help, saying, hey, I'm in this situation, I don't really like it, I'm going with it because I don't know what else to do in this situation, but it's hurting me and I want to change it. I just don't think maybe she knows how to. I mean, automatically that channel, the viewers on there, like there's a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to me. And normally I don't mind not being I'm truly this battle in my brain of like, I don't care what people think of me, and I really care what people think of me. And that's the battle, right? That's the war in my head. I always say this, I'm a prisoner in my own head. Now this one I think is fascinating with what she's breaking down right here, because I think this is such a pivotal situation for people who put themselves on social media that we do all the time. To put yourself on social media, you have to have a thick skin, or you have to grow into one. I didn't have one, and because I was so sick, there was no way I was going to really be able to change much about where I was, because when you're in a position where you're just physically battling for your life, emotions, thoughts, all of that has to go to the wayside, right? And it gets very, very chaotic, especially when it's like, my heart's not working, nobody's believing me, nobody's listening to me. In my situation, it was very, very chaotic. But this is such a paradigm about being on social media. Why do we put ourselves on social media? Well, for some people, it's just attention. I've narrowed it down to this. I love to share with people. I love to share perspectives. I love sharing. And maybe that's a form of attention getting, I don't know, but that's kind of what I've boiled down to myself. I don't think I'm, attention craved or starved, because if that's the case, I wouldn't have taken so long. It was 32 when I put myself on YouTube, and I wouldn't have taken years off the way I did if I was so addicted to it, right? For somebody with my personality, getting attention is not hard for me. I'm very, that's not really an issue. And I've had so many jobs where I've had to be the center of attention or kind of be in that position. It doesn't, it's not like I'm lacking in that area. But she says, on the one hand, she's like, there's a battle in me. On the one hand, I don't care what anybody thinks. And on the other hand, I care what everybody thinks. And here's what it is at the end of the day, I feel like we don't really see. You can do your best to get a thick skin and say, you know what, people are going to think what they want, and I'm just going to do what I need to do and try to not let it bother me, right? And there's a lot of times where you can get to that point fairly successfully. But here's the flip side. We're human beings. We're social creatures. And as human beings and as social creatures, we have an innate instinct to want to be loved, want to be accepted, want to be part of the community, want to be part of the whole. And I feel like that's where YouTube can be for most YouTubers. They're, especially women, it can be very mentally difficult to have to be out there and say, I'm going to do what I want, not care what everybody thinks. But then when you do that, you are opening yourself up to everyone and their mothers and their dogs and their opinions, good, bad, and indifferent. And when you are especially with somebody like Trisha, when she's such a controversial character, she gets a lot of hate, right? And look, we can argue whether or not she brings it on herself, whatever. That's not my point. My point is just to say this is just something that happens with, her character on YouTube. And as a result, that grades on you. That gets very difficult. Like, I remember for me, it was so hard going, so many people hate me, but they're hating me based off of lies. I don't understand what I did wrong for everybody to hate, for me to be so rejected by the community. And I had to understand, of course, the communities that I was involved in, and I didn't realize it at the time. They are very much all about masking being bullies. They'll call it criticism, and at the end of the day, it's just a buzzword for them to be able to just be packs of bullies. And then when there's nobody else to bully, they start bullying each other. So there's a really hard dynamic there, because deep down we all want to be loved and part of the collective whole of humanity. And when humanity rejects us, it's very painful. So that in itself, I feel like, kind of creates a cognitive dissonance where it can be really mentally difficult with mental health, especially if you already have mental health issues like Trisha does with not valuing herself, as she's kind of talked about. That can be very difficult to navigate. It's difficult for anybody, but especially if you're mentally stressed.
But like, you don't need to embarrass me. You don't need to continue to go. Now I'm owning up to my part, because to say Ethan always thinks is right, like, I'm the opposite. People think that, and Ethan too, he's like, you're always like downgrading yourself. Like, it's a thing to say, like, you're trash, you're this. Like, I call myself trash. And I'm like, it's not being self-deprecating. It's actually like a truth of mine that I really, really feel like a piece, like, that's not trying to manipulate or get people to feel sorry for me. And like, I feel like a piece that I can't control my eating. I feel like a piece that I can't maintain friendships, relationships. I feel like a piece that I feel like I do ruin people's lives. Like, get help, get treatment, people say. And it's like, I don't want to be in mental hospitals anymore. I don't want to feel like a battle in my brain. And like, they say, like, sometimes, relationships don't fix things, but for me, being in this relationship has helped me a lot.
Okay, so now she breaks down and says, well, she kind of degrades herself, not because she's trying to get attention, but because that's how she really feels. And then she goes into this, myriad of reasons. Well, I feel bad because I haven't gotten my impulse control over eating. I feel bad for this. I feel bad for that. I feel bad because I can't keep relationships. I ruin relationships. I've been destructive with people. I don't want to be like this. I've tried to get help. And she's been really open about trying to get help, and she makes enough money, obviously. Therapy is not going to be hard for her to get, right? Financially, is what I'm saying, financially. For some of us, like, with everything else going on, I would love to get therapy 2 or 3 times a week to still work through things, but it's like, who can afford it, at this point? So you just do what you can, right? But here's the thing. She doesn't value herself, So she then allows people to degrade her so she can get things as a result. She tries to justify it in her mind, but as people continue to degrade her, somewhere in her soul, it's like she knows this is not okay, this is not how I should be treated. And then because people continue, she puts herself in situations where she allows people around her to continue to overstep her boundaries. At some point, she explodes. But when she explodes, because she has the platform she does, it can be very destructive and detrimental to the people around her, and then she just feels horrible. Well, girl, I want to tell you, I know you recognize these, and not that she's watching, like, Trisha Paytas has way better things to do than watch this video. But if I were going to talk to her, it's like, girl, I understand. And I've been that person. A lot of times when you're the person that everybody does that to, and I've been there, not just on YouTube, but growing up, the way I grew up, the kicking dog, right? I've been that person, the younger one that's always bullied. And every so often at times, you know, and there are several things that come from that. You become a people pleaser, you start to justify the way people treat you, you know, and it sounds like that could be some of maybe what she's going through. I would say that here's what I think she has to do if she really wants to get better. You have to really set boundaries in your life and enforce them. And you have to do it the best way that you can, because this is the other thing about changing some of these, you know, behaviors and patterns. When I've seen Trisha, she can be, and I've heard her acknowledge this, she can be very reactive with her emotions. And that's the thing, is like, my mid-20s were very chaotic because I was very reactive with my emotions. Not so much my early 20s, but in my early 20s, I was in a situation where I was very controlled, kind of in a controlling situation. Won't really go into it, but my mid-20s, I was self-exploring. And on top of that, the explosiveness and the chaoticness also came from the fact that it's the way I grew up. It was patterns. I grew up around a lot of females who just reacted all the time and fighting and craziness. And it took me quite a while and the right people to sit me down and say, this isn't healthy and there are better ways to operate. But it took me a while to be able to unlock those patterns. And then I had to see, well, why are the patterns there? Why am I reacting? And then I had to go through that. And that's something I'm still going through. I don't react the same ways anymore, thank goodness. You know, I'm now 36, so this is, you know, 8 to 10 years ago, right? And I've done a lot of work on myself since then. But something you have to do is to really do the work. You have to get rid of the things that are toxic and that are triggers. And I would never tell her what to do with herself or her career. But I think for her to really get better and be in the place she wants to be with mental health, she really has to take time away from social media. She really has to take time away from anything that's toxic, or like, for instance, this show. If this is something that's toxic for her, like the host is doing something that's a toxic behavior that's triggering a weakness that she's still trying to work on, you have to set boundaries. If those boundaries are exploited, or if people, you know, ignore them or they step over them, then you remove yourself. I think one of the best things I could have done for myself with YouTube the first time around, I left, because I knew I cannot. I'm going to be in chaos and my health is getting worse by being in this. And that's right. It was constantly putting me stress and anxiety. My cortisol was going up. The histamines were getting worse. I didn't know that what was happening at the time physically. I just knew the anxiety of being there and not knowing how to deal with this stuff made it worse. It was only after the couple months into the program of getting better, I was able to start seeing what happened, because as my health was getting better, there was more room in my energy. There was literally more energy for me to have the mental and emotional thought process to kind of go through what was happening. And on top of that, sometimes you need that space just to get stronger. Like, for instance, I know he's controversial at the moment, but let's look at Shane Dawson. Shane Dawson will take he'll take months away from social media. And I think that's very, very healthy. And I don't know, no disrespect to her, but I just don't know that she's ever done that. When it comes to social media, and again, I'm not saying that in a way where I'm trying to be disrespectful. I don't know, but it seems like she's fairly consistent. And it's like, if you really want to nip this in the bud, you can go to all the therapy in the world, but it's very difficult, if not almost impossible, to be in the position you're in, stay in that position, and try to work on yourself and the reactions when you're around constant things that trigger you. Does that make sense? You have to I feel like you have to take time away and get strong in yourself to do that. But that's the paradigm of the YouTubers, of the social media influencers. Taking time away can be the death of your career. Taking time away can absolutely, end your career. It can end what you've built. I knew when I walked away from this, the former Joy channel, which was 65,000 subscribers, millions of views. I was on average getting about 10,000 a month. I knew that it was going to end what I was doing. That's another reason I deleted the channel. I said, I don't even want to tempt myself to go back, because I had tried to kind of leave and came back a couple times, got a lot of crap for it. And I was like, I need to have I need to make a clean break. And in that clean break, I need to not have temptation, which is why I fully deleted it. But you have to be courageous enough to say to yourself, look, if I do this and I want to come back, if I am supposed to, and if it's the right thing for me, when the time is right, I will be successful again. And that I can do that again. You have to have that confidence in you, because when I left, and I had said this before, and I think people thought I was cocky, but I was like, if I leave, I can do it again. If I'm supposed to, I know, I'm confident in myself, I can do it again. But I also think that's another thing about Trisha. In my opinion, Trisha is kind of a, how do I put this? I don't want to say the word because I think YouTube gets upset, but in my opinion, she's kind of a victim to her success. Because she got successful too young and she hadn't yet worked out her issues. And as a result, it kind of locks you there. But because you have maybe not built up success in other areas, because for me, I've been successful in several other areas of my life, which I'm very grateful for. I'm grateful that my younger self took that time to not jump on the YouTube bandwagon, and I could have, right? And I went and I got successful in marketing and business and, did all these other things to prove to myself what I was capable of. So when I walked away, there really wasn't an issue about, there was insecurity, trust me. And some of the insecurity was more like, everybody hates me, nobody's gonna want to hear from me again, right? But then I came back in 3 months, built a channel, 100,000 subscribers and millions of views. I left that channel. Now I have a channel that just hit 12,000. I'm on this channel and slowly building it, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And the biggest thing is I'm happy. Like everybody, I've seen the comments, and I'm so happy and so grateful for those comments. People can see that I'm happy, I'm at peace in myself, and I feel like I can really be the person that I want to be. And there's so much more I can say about all this, but this video is getting way too long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it short. But I just want to say, as a message to Trisha, not that she's ever going to take the time to watch this, and again, not disrespect, she's got better things to do with her time, but girl, my heart goes out to you. I, in my life, have had very similar issues to you. And I just want to tell you that you can overcome this stuff. And as long as you keep chipping away at it, eventually you will. But you have to take a really, really hard look at yourself, and you have to really take a look at the people you're surrounding yourself with, what you're allowing to happen to you, and say, am I worth more than the way people are treating me? And here's the thing, guys. I think, isn't she in her late 20s, early 30s? This is a process. It's so funny. When I was younger, I had this idea that once you hit 30, you have everything figured out. And I'm like, oh, I'm 36. That is not the case. Especially when you don't come from a good home environment, or you've had horrible relationships, right? That stuff, especially for women, that stuff takes time. It takes a lot of time to unravel and kind of go into yourself with. So it is a process. But if you keep trying to chip away at it, but you be honest and you really take those steps to make yourself better, the amount of peace and strength you'll get is amazing. It's amazing. And I promise you, it's worth the lost revenue. It's worth the dead channel. It's worth the channel going under. It's worth it. I'm so glad I stepped away from that channel. I'm glad I did it. I learned so much. I learned how to make a YouTube channel, how YouTube works, how to make videos successful. Thumbnails I kind of have gotten into later. My thumbnails were horrible back then. SEO, how to rank a video. But it's the game shouldn't be getting as much attention and money as possible. The game should be to try to create the best person that you want to be. And not because you want to be better than anybody else or above anybody else, just because it makes you happy and brings you peace. And I wish that for you, no matter what path you take. And I'm not telling you to leave YouTube. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying that I wish that for you. And these are the things that I've done. I've seen other people do that have helped them in similar situations. And, I also don't think you're just a horrible person that's been, just nothing but horrible to people. I think that you're somebody who's been desperate to find love and respect and genuine gratitude from people, and you get to a point of desperation where you act out, you lash out, and I get that. And my heart goes out to you, and I hope that in your life you continue down a path where you find health and peace. So that's what I wanted to say. Let me know what you think of this video. I don't want this to be a drama video. I really don't. And again, no shade, no attacking to anybody. That I really hope this video, my intention is coming out in this video, that it's just trying to be an uplifting video and give some advice about some of the reactions I've seen. And again, here's the other thing. We don't know her. And what I mean by that is like, there can be so many other things I'm missing. I'm just giving a little blanket overview of some of the stuff I've seen and maybe some tools that can help either her, or if you're going through this, maybe you can kind of relate to some of the things she's going through that maybe could help you, because I've been able to, overcome a lot of this stuff in my life, and it's something that I would like to give back because I just want to help people, you know, be able to find as much peace in themselves as they can, peace and health. And that's all I wish for her and everybody involved. Okay guys, if you like this video, please support me on this channel and give me a big thumbs up, like the video, subscribe, and make sure and hit notifications so you can know when I do post videos. Sound off in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. This might be the only video I do. I don't know. You know, this video probably won't go anywhere, and that's okay. I'm in build mode with this, and it's just fun. I make like 10 bucks a day on this channel, but I don't care. I have fun. I just love connecting with you guys and just kind of saying whatever feels to say in my heart. So like the video, subscribe, hit notifications, comment, share the content if you want to, if you think it could be helpful to people, and yeah. And add me on Katie's Insight. Subscribe there and hit notifications, and you can see more of me, and I can help you with stimulus there. And otherwise, this has been way too long. I'm sorry it was too long. I didn't mean for it to. So let me just say, take care, blessings, and until the next video, I'm just sending you guys so much love and hugs, mwah, and kisses to everybody.